Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Um, so, in continuation to the Outstanding Security Performance Awards India, which were held in the month of August in New Delhi in association with BW Business World and media partners BW Security World, BW Defense, BW Police, and Security Link India. As you're aware that we had a couple of panel discussions before the actual award ceremony, and uh, we got an extremely positive and overwhelming response from the audience that they could not hear all the panelists. Uh, there was shortage of time, and the panelists they wanted to hear more from the panelists. So, keeping that in mind, we are continuing taking it up from there and talking to each panelist, and we are doing this one-on-one session with each of the panelists. So today, I am glad and happy to invite Col Inderjit Singh, who is the Chief Information Security Officer with Vara Technology. Welcome, Col Inderjit.
Thank you, Mr. Mathur. How are you? And it's really wonderful to be here with you today for discussing the cybersecurity issues.
Thank you so
And
much.
I must congratulate the award ceremony, and the event was really wonderful and phenomenal. And the kind of discussion which really were initiated were very thought-provoking. I congratulate you and your team for that.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So starting from where we left, Kal Saab, the topic of the panel discussion that we had the other day was that best practices during COVID-19, some case studies.
Right.
What are your opening remarks on the theme?
Yeah. So, what has happened is that working from home has primarily increased the attack surface very exponentially. And multiple vectors of cyber attack uh, through the heightened dependency on the personal devices which have come into place, your BYODs which are coming into place, your home networks come into place. So it's really increased. So it's a paradise for the hackers today to get into any network, attack on their will and wish, and take it on. And that is what they're trying to do right now. And what they have evolved also is that social engineering tactics, which are very effective, which we are seeing now during the COVID-19 period. That is really kind of making things really vulnerable. And people, while they're working on the emails, they are actually very vulnerable to the social engineering attack. And what is a matter of fact is maintaining a cyber resilience of these highly interconnected devices is very challenging, right? So, having said so, if we are not getting the cyber resiliency, the networks are vulnerable, the critical business assets and function are significantly more exposed now, right, to all these targeted cyber attacks. And the nation state actors have also started playing the role. Like I was trying to tell you that the nation state actors are trying to attack the power grid, the road networks, the railway grid, and other important infrastructures which are there. And essentially, what has come in the last couple of months, we are seeing is that there is a total shift in the critical infrastructure dynamics, and hospitals are like the new IT sector, and they are actually under a lot of acute pressure. And while they're being hit, particularly while the doctors are operating COVID patients, they are hit hard by the form of ransomware, which are kind of aimed at disrupting their vital services. So those kind of things which are damaging right now, what we are seeing, and this is going to continue for quite some time. And at the start of the coronavirus itself, we had seen that the focus of the complete CISOs of industry, the company, has changed. Their budget allocations have changed. Their thought process on the spendings have changed. Their priorities have changed. Right? What they actually thought they would be doing, they're not doing. Right? Now the focus, which has almost become, it's gone to the multi-factor authentication. right? So now they're busy, covering all the gaps which are there, because a lot of people are working from home. Most of the devices are unsecured, unsecured Wi-Fi. They don't have a DLP solution. So one is a multi-factor authentication. They're also trying to, put their budget into kind of securing the better VPNs and the rollout of VPNs for the users, their employees. And it is like the spendings have changed. We never thought that there would be the spending of this nature altogether at the start of this financial year, and suddenly the focus has changed. The spending pattern has changed. While we were looking in for other niche technologies altogether to get into, now we are talking of the technologies to secure all the endpoints first, right? And we are trying to plug in all the vulnerabilities in the remote work applications. Right. So those are the kind of things what we are seeing last couple of months, and this is a big learning what has happened, and all industries, whether it's a financial institution, your insurance industry, uh, there's a the dynamics of securing their network. The prioritization has totally now different from what we have seen earlier, before the start of the COVID.
Thank you, Kansal. This is very interesting perspective that you have given from the CISO point of view, the new learnings during COVID-19.
Yeah.
We've been talking to various security professionals, one of during these series and even otherwise, and we were given to understand that the security, whether it is physical security or IT security, is playing a new major important role. And we often say that
Right.
CSO is the chief advisor to the management these days. Uh,
Right.
is it the same case with CIS or CIOs of
Right.
organization?
Okay. The CISO primarily now plays a major role during the COVID time, it has emerged, and you practically want all your networks to be secured first. Whatever size of your organization, maybe the small size, medium size, or larger size, you have a data, and you need to safeguard the data at any cost, right? And no organization today, practically can expect a CISO to achieve faultless security in the current context of power. Right? So there are going to be challenges which are there, right? But what we have to understand is that effective cyber risk management can help businesses achieve smarter and faster transformation. Right? And CISO now is going to play a major role in this uncertain times. And for any organization, whether it's a physical security, whether it's a cyber security, the end goal is a resilience, right? So whatever comes, we have to have a resilient network. We have to have the resilient services. We have to rebound back to the situation which we were, right? And there's a daunting challenge for CISOs in protecting the organization's digital infrastructure. And while they ensure that the operations are not interrupt, they are not stopped, they have to keep going. And if you put it in the same thing in the physical scenario, it's the same thing what a CISO or a CSO has to, work it out. And when we say a CISO now plays a major important role in the complete security structure of any company, because of the COVID, uh, like I was just saying in my opening remarks, that also that there will be total change. And as per one of the studies, there's 70% of CISOs, they believe budget will shrink at the end of the year 2020, but they plan to ask for significant amount of budget in 2021. And so this is what we are seeing, because they want to go and do the digital transformation. They want to, get in new technology per se to make the systems resilient. So the main thing which uh, CISO needs to really understand today is to foster a culture of cyber resilience, right? With a focus on protecting the organization's critical assets and the services. That's pretty important. And here I just like to tell you, uh, when the COVID happened and we started working from home, our data has got, spread all across the countryside. because we do earlier when the data was there, it was residing only in the four walls of the company, and maybe some remote third-party vendor used to able to access that, or your remote workers who were limited, who were given kind of permitted access, they were only able to do it. But now with this kind of situation, the perimeter has got totally blurred, and that's the challenge what we are trying to face. And the risk informed decisions during this crisis and beyond will be very important for us. And put this into the physical world is the same thing which works when we are talking of a CISO or a CSO per se, right? And the business continuity plan. This I keep trying to tell everyone that the business continuity plan, update that, practice the organization's response now, because this is what plays a major role for us today, right? When we are talking about the new normal, if we have the business continuity plan in place, if we are testing it right in the rightful manner, that's the way we can work. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty difficult when it comes to ensuring that your company or your company's data is secure, it's resilient, your networks are resilient, and you're working 24/7. And you need to
So,
strengthen the ecosystem-wide collaboration, because now CISO plays such an important role in the organization itself, because he is the key man who's kind of securing the data, ensuring that the data is secure, and there is no loss of any business at any given time.
thank you, Kamsa. I have a lot of questions for you because this is one of the most challenging area that COVID-19 is witnessing. But I would like to ask you a little controversial question. See, we are
Right,
seeing that the convergence is happening. There is an amalgamation of physical security and the IT security. And I also mentioned earlier that CSO is now the chief advisor of the management. CSO has a seat, has a place in
right.
the room. Is CISO will the information security would become a part of the overall security, or the physical security will report into the information security? What do you think?
It's a pretty controversial question, but then the strategic leadership really has to take in the CISO very much into account. When I say the physical security officer and the CISO, they're at par when it comes to their level, number one point. But the digital transformation, I will like to tell you the digital transformation, how physical security is also going to take place. All this while we have been using finger biometrics, and that's the way we are investigating anyone who's coming in, and we try to identify any user. Now there are two technologies which are going to be primarily coming into place. That's the facial recognition to identify any customer who's going to be coming in at any premise. So the physical security officer plays a major role in that. Now the other way to authenticate a person would be the voice biometrics to authenticate that. So whether it's your airports, whether it's your hotels, whether it's a bank, whether it's a larger enterprise, smaller enterprise, whatever size you're trying to evolve these two technologies in place, rather than trying to still follow the older pattern of the finger biometrics, because you cannot anymore you put the finger, or you cannot use the access control card at any place, right? So that is going to be a major challenge. So when I say the physical security parameters, the physical security, because this is what is the physical security the CSO has to look into, right? So, and CSO and the CISO, who plays a major role towards your infrastructure side, right? So that is where now you find two different verticals, the digital transformation happening in the domain of the cybersecurity officer or the CSO, right? So they have to play a major role, and new challenges are coming up. That is what I try to bring in, and like uh, both of them will have to now face multiple vectors of cyber attack. Right? The voice biometric, facial biometric will have their own challenges. CISO is going to have its own challenge. So when it comes to the leadership, board or board meeting, both of them now have to play a major role when it comes
Important role.
to the security aspect of it, right?
Yeah, so all the physical aspects of the security, all the attributes of the physical security have now
Yeah,
to be, dealt with the technology. That's going to
yeah,
be new normal. Okay.
that's a new normal. And just to tell you that when I talk of, say, for example, a facial recognition, and you have the access control, gates which are being put, you're letting the people pass authenticated through the access control cards. You're no more using this access control cards. The other option which you had was have iris. So iris is a costlier devices. So how do you do that, right? So put this at any other place. So now you're mixing both of them. You're bringing both the technologies together. You're bringing in the technology to work for your access, and also the infrastructure side which is working on. So it's a very interesting combination of CSO and CISO in times to come.
Yes. Thank you. There are a lot of compliance issue in the large organizations comes up. So how do you think to blend compliances and security while preserving a seamless user experience? Do this, don't do
Right.
that, etc. So both the physical security and the IT security both have their respective compliances. How do you think there is going to be a blend in that?
So what I personally feel as, there's going to be a kind of the workload that has moved beyond the physical corporate network and traditional perimeter defenses. So when I say so, when you're working from home, and what you were earlier, primarily you're working from your on-premise location. You had your data in place. You had your all teams working under single roof, maybe at a different locations per se, but they were all interconnected, right? And there was a classical perimeter boundary under in which your data was there, right? And now what has happened is that it is the perimeter is moved out, your data is moved out, right? And now the companies have to have a kind of compliance and the auditing methodology so that the people who are working from home, right, they continue to work in that manner for a long time. But what is more important? The compliance issue. And when I say the compliance issues which are there, I will put it at a two levels. I'll try to work it out. The compliance issues, one at the strategic level, one at the technical level. That means the strategy is at the board level, and one is the implementation level, what we think of. And as a business leader, when we have to do the compliance, what we need to do is one is, which I already told you, is the business continuity plan. Very important for us. We have to have that business continuity plan in place. Test it, work it out, and see that it really works, rather than just a piece of paper and some compliances which you have done. It should not be just mere compliance checklist. It has to be implemented. Second is the risk management or the cyber risk management. It's both. As a company, you really looking for your business risk, your data risk, your network risk, right? Your compliance risks which are there. So all type of risks which are there now at a strategic level, you need to have those in place. All right, and having means that you have to check it up. You have to implement it now. And practically, this was the time when you should have done it. If you're not done it, you need to really do that. Your disaster recovery plan. Most of the companies, they avoid these kind of plans, but then they have very good volumes of data about disaster recovery. But then, how many times they would have tested it, right? And this is the time when they should have tested it. And it was kind of a exercise or a war footing exercise which was to be done overnight. Had they got the business continuity plan in place, had they got the risk management in place, have they got the recovery plan in place, it will make things very easy. Similarly, the incident response plan, incident response in the physical terms, in the network terms, right? In the times like you've been hit hard by the hackers or the ransomware, and to tell you a fact, one of the studies shows that India faced the maximum amount of the ransomware amount they paid it last year. It was very surprising because if you look at the figures all across the world, we see more ransomware attacks happening day in and day out. But the number of times we hear news about India is very less. But the reports state otherwise. And at a strategic level, now we have to think, how the work from home is going to happen. We have the 95% of the work people who are there working from home. Now we're going to go back. What's a new normal, right? When we go back, we leave our data back in the houses. The data is not going to come back the way it was earlier. Now this has to be very much in place. So if we have kind of security about your data, the company data, it will be very important, and cyber resilience, right? This has to be practiced and worked up at the highest level in the company. So these are the things which one should look into, but definitely at the technical level, ground level, when we say the compliance issues are there, we can talk of the VPNs. They have to be put in place. Your remote data access policy has to be there. Who accesses the data, right? Your employee CYOD policy, your BYOD policy, using of your email, encrypted emails, which you should look into it. Your password policies, your cyber hygiene, which is important because we never focus on the cyber hygiene all the time. We train only a couple of people on the cyber hygiene. Now everyone needs to have the cyber hygiene, right? So practically there is no silver bullet, but to ensure the cyber security in the company to the last employee, it is very important we follow it top-down approach.
So I hear you saying that everything said and done, but the data, the organizational data, is very highly vulnerable these days. With everybody working from their own premises, there are no secure VPNs, the passwords. Everyone has a different kind of security. Individually at home cannot be as good as when you work in the organization. So what are the tools and techniques that can help to minimize these data breaches, to protect this data? And I also, Kansab, I also want to learn more about the cyber insurance that you made a comment last time. So, two questions to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just tell you about the tools first, what we should have, what we should do, and like I was just trying to tell you about, the spending of the companies has suddenly changed, and we are looking in for multi-factor authentication or a two-factor authentication to authenticate our users. That is one first tool which one has to really look in for. Your VPN capacity, you should have sufficient VPN capacity when you're accessing your data. Without that, it's really going to be a problem for us. If you're accessing the emails or the company data without a secure connectivity, it's a problem. Earlier, we used to not invest in the data backup. We had the SAN or the NAS that was only on-prem. Now, today, we need to have the data backup of each laptop which is there, because we don't know how long that laptop will not be had, or there will not be any attack on it, and we'll lose the data. So we need to have a data backup of each and every machine which is there with us today. We should also think of the DLP services, that the data leakage prevention services, so that the endpoints, your laptops are secure. Your laptop has actually become most important today. Your UEBA, that's user behavior analysis, is important as to what is your user doing now, what is your employee doing now, all this while on the laptop. Now he's going to be accessing the company mail, and he's also going to be accessing his personal mail. So the line is blurry. This is what I want to bring it out, that your data can go anywhere. Why it can go anywhere is like you're accessing your company data, and you're going through Chrome and you click on the button saying that save the user ID password. Now it is very interesting, because I, as a hacker, if I take the control of the machine and I'm able to take the control of a browser, I have the user ID password of your data, of your network, internal network, right? So I can do anything, and I can log in I can steal data, I can corrupt data, I can, inject malware, do whatever I want, right? And if you're a smaller organization, because not all organizations are big enough to have their on-prem infrastructure, so it's a good time to go in for a SOC, that's a Security Operations Center, with the capability of SOAR, and they can also have the threat intelligence and stuff like that. Other tools which are important is uh, it's the right time to refine your IT policy and your social media policy. We never thought of a social media policy earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, for the organization, it's important, and also have a home policy for the employees. Okay, and moving to the cloud. If you're a small company, moving to the cloud is more secure than working on-prem, and it's got its own connotations, it's got its own advantages of security of the data, and the data privacy is really important right now. And while you're in cloud, you can safeguard your data quite a bit. Now, coming to the second question of cyber insurance. Now, what practically happens is that I will take the case of Equifax, and with example, I think that you will understand it better. It was hit in the month, somewhere in the month of March, by a malware, and that malware, once it was in the network, it was dormant, and thereafter it was trying to do whatever it wanted to do. The Equifax company, did not come to know about that particular malware because they had not updated the patches, and it is only after that malware had taken the data away they came to know, and that time was almost 240 or 248 days after it really hit them. So what it entails is that anywhere, anytime when a malware hits your network, you have only a window of opportunity for 7 minutes. And if you're not reacting within that first 7 minutes, you will only come to know after 240 days or 248 days or more than 500 days, maybe, that varies, when the malware actually does what it wants and steals the data away. And this is a very precarious situation. Why? Because we don't do a patching of the network in time. There are lots of patches which are there, but we don't do it. Okay, or it's very difficult at times because the IT person who's there doesn't do the way it is required to be done very regularly. Now, if you have a cyber insurance, you really can guard against all these kind of threats or these kind of challenges which you are being posed, because anytime your data loss is there, you need to report to them within a stipulated 72 hours, and they can then take a corrective measure to plug in your network. And also what they primarily do, the cyber insurance does your VAPT to identify what are your vulnerabilities and which are there in your network. So if you have a cyber insurance, you are trying to safeguard the data of your network. It's like your house insurance. So when you insure your house, you guard against any fire or any earthquake or any eventuality or theft or whatever it is. So similarly, if you're having a cyber insurance, and this cyber insurance is really picking up, and whether it's a small company, larger company, we definitely need to go in for the cyber insurance in the times to come. In India, it's not really that much that the companies have really gone for cyber insurance. It's still, in a very naive state right now. People are still thinking yes, no, whether we really need to go in for the cyber insurance because it comes at a cost. But definitely, we need to have the cyber insurance of our companies done against the data theft, against the, like if you have, I'll just give you an example that if you're having a BPO, you have the customer data. Now, if that hacker tries and steals the customer data, it's all gone. Though you would have implemented the PCI DSS protocols, but then it's all gone. So you have to be very careful when we do all this kind of insurances. It will guard against all those problems.
Thank you, Kunsa. Very interesting. I was, we were really thinking that 30 minutes would be enough to understand more from you. I think the time is still. I'm still feeling that time is much shorter, and there is so much to talk to you and learn from you. But since we have
Right.
limitation of time, I would like to ask you 3 points that you want the audience to keep keep in mind during this time and beyond. Very quickly, 3 points, please.
Okay. One, while the threat landscape is very large, secure your data and secure yourself, because you are no more a customer on the social network. You are a commodity. You are sellable. Your data is being sold. So be very careful when you are browsing any social media site. Secondly, try and secure all the networks which you are handling today, because your the data is not there with you. So it's a porous perimeter. We have to be very careful. The networks need to be secure. We have to go in for something like zero trust or other kind of technologies altogether to secure our network. Third, secure endpoints. That's the most important, because those are the weakest point in the network altogether today. So have a DLP, have a MDM, have other endpoint solutions or the XDR to secure your endpoint.
Thank you so much, Kansar. With that, we come to the end of this session, and I'm sure I have a lot more questions to ask you, but I also request the audience, if they have the question, they can write back to us and we will forward it to Col Inderjit Singh. On his behalf, I assure you that they will be answered as soon as possible. So, Kansar, thank you so much. And we look forward to have more of your time, more of your knowledge, and more of your thoughts as and when we get the next opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be with you. Thank you, Mathurji. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you.